So if I know a lot of you, some of you, it's brand new names. And so I work, my name is Jessica Castaneda. I work as the director of Idrc. I kind of call myself a jack of all trades, master of nothing. I've done pretty much everything in migrant ed over the last 20 years. And just enough to know to be dangerous and maybe hopefully give you a little bit of information that might help you today. I find my face absolutely distracting on the side, so any excuse that I have to hide it, I'm going to do that. So that way you can just focus on the slides. So I'm going to stop my video, but welcome everybody. So yesterday, I don't know if some of you joined one of the sessions that I did. We kind of looked at data and like how we use data. And one of the things that I'm kind of geeky about is I absolutely love to keep up with what's going on in agriculture. And for a while, I felt like there was a disconnect between migrant ed and understanding the real importance of data, ag data, and what we do. So since we work with migrant families who follow streams of work in different places, they move based on jobs and based on connections and based on a lot of things. But agriculture has, years ago, I was asked to do some of the literature reviews for consortiums, probably about 18 years ago. And in that, we were looking at what was happening in meat processing and what was happening in dairy. And I realized just how little I knew about the industries themselves. And so it really kind of, that was the beginning of my love of learning of these things. And on the side, my husband and I also have a small farm. We raise cows, we raise a lot of our own food. And so I really became kind of interested on these things on a personal level, but then also seeing the direct contacts, the context of how it works with migrant ed. So we're going to do several things today. I want to ask you, and I want you to use the chat box because we do want to make sure that, people are, I'm not just talking to the wind here, and that, hopefully that we can have some interaction even though we can't see each other. So if you had to answer these questions about your state, and you don't have to put anything in the chat box yet, what would be your top crops in your state that would require migrant labor? This was one of my challenges when I started with Tennessee years ago, about 20 years ago. I had no idea what crops required migrant labor. I didn't even really know what they looked like. And so it was a real challenge. And so I feel like sometimes recruiters are brand new and they're like, okay, well, where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to look at? If you had to say for your state, if you're a supervisor on any level besides just one county, or even if it's just one county, which counties in your state are your top producing areas? So they have the most types of work that would be for agriculture in your state. I just want you to think, if you know these things, what temporary agriculture jobs do you have in your state? And then if you do have temporary ag, is there a high turnover, and could you show it, or could you prove it, or could you understand why? And then what websites or reports help you keep up with your state's agriculture trends? So I'm going to have you in just a little bit. We're going to actually use the chat box and kind of share some of our favorite things that we use. But for me, agriculture trends means that you can answer these questions. You know what is happening in your state. You know what the trends are. You know if things are increasing or decreasing, and you know why. And you would think, okay, well, what does that have to do with IDNR? IDNR is going out and finding migrant families. Why on earth do I need to pay attention to, trends of nurseries or trends of tobacco? Well, of course, a lot of us, let me ask you that question. You can look put your answer in the chat box. What does agriculture have to do? These specific trends have to do with our work with IDNR. What do you think? Share your thoughts. Look at that little box. And if you don't think it has anything to do, who are you going to find? So Emily Williams said, yeah, what do basically, where are you going to go? Who are you going to find? So we can be proactive instead of reactive, which is a really important thing. So you're not just like, hey, what happened? You can kind of see you've got movement for jobs. You've got everything. So Jonathan says it helps us know where to look. As work moves, so do the workers and families. So we definitely see there's a direct coordination between these two things. At one point in time, you would say sometimes to migrant programs, hey, do you follow your agriculture trends? And it was like, what? Why are we doing this? So I feel like we really see that, efficiency, being prepared, what's happening, all of these things are really important, like Alejandro says, for that realistic and successful recruitment plan. So this hit home to me when we'd had a summer program and we'd spent all this effort and time to really do this. We used to do really mobile summer programs. And so we would move the staff to different places where our families were going to show up. We knew we had to work really fast, like to sign up kids. We had very seasonal families working in tomatoes in a part of Tennessee, so we would try to move our teachers, and we'd work with community partners and have it at churches or have it at schools. And one year we had everything ready. We had the staff, we had the busing, and we were watching the tomato fields. We watched the workers, they planted them all, they tied them all, and it was ready for them, for the harvesting group that usually came up from Immokalee, Florida, to show up. And we went to, we were waiting for them, and then nobody shows up. And so we're thinking, what on earth has happened? And then they start just completely leaving the tomatoes in the fields. So for us, we had no earthly idea why you would ever leave a tomato in the field. And it turned out, as we were working with our growers, they're saying, well, the cost of harvesting this year is more than, that we're going to even get when we sell our product. So this year, we're going to let everything rot in the field. We were just kind of shocked and thought, we hadn't made that connection. And then we realized, we don't even pay attention to these things. These guys knew that this was happening early on. We weren't paying attention to what was happening in the tomato market, never mind what was happening in the tomato market in Tennessee. And it was an eye-opener for us. And so one of you put a comment to be proactive instead of reactive. We realized we really needed to be a lot more proactive in keeping track with what was going on. And, so you have Aubrey has a comment. I went to a blueberry farm a few years ago, and the blueberries were fermenting on the bushes. So then you're asking yourself, what on earth is happening? And you realize, there's something that we could do instead. Maybe we can. So what changes, and you can put your thoughts in the chat box, what changes have you seen this past year? Have you seen decreased movement of youth or families in your state? Have you seen an increase of youth instead of families? Have you seen more H-2A workers? Have you seen movement from one particular area to another particular area that maybe we in Tennessee, we would see that our crops actually shifted like a couple counties over time, just depending on where the fields were and depending on what was going on. Have you seen really no changes, or who knows? So we're seeing in comments, it says more H-2A, increase of H-2A, less movement. We're seeing a steady increase of H-2A, slow work, less movement, decreased movement. So there was a new blueberry variety being grown in Florida that delayed the workers coming to North Carolina for Florida for blueberry season. And that's a very good point right there. Sometimes your workers are tied to another state, and there are things happening in another state that directly impact. Festivals were canceled, things were canceled, less movement. So we're seeing some of us are seeing similar things. So if you needed to answer these questions right here, and besides just what your, like Tara just mentioned, agriculture brings 8 billion to Oregon. So there's still a lot of, even if some of us are seeing less movement, agriculture is, people are still eating, things are still going on, but there's things that are changing. But if you had to answer these questions right here, where would you go? What would you say? If you need to answer those, how could you back it up with data? Where would you go? What do you think? We've got comments say residents don't want to work in the fields as they used. Give me a data source. Most of these things are impressions and things. Okay, we got a Farm Bureau website. What other things? OSHA, H-2A websites. You could definitely look right at H-2A and see that. What else? Any other places? Department of Ag, the Idrc website. Hopefully we've got some things on there to help you out. Department of Labor. Anybody can give me a link of an actual place that they would go on, that would say, hey, this was a site or a place that I would go. Anybody can put that on there. Get Google agriculture alerts. So you can actually set up an alert in Google to get certain kinds of news articles. You can set up a Google alert. So that's a really good thing. You could put like Tennessee agriculture, farm workers, nursery, and put all of those keywords in, and then any sort of news article about that would come up. Actually asking the contractors and the workers. We've got, what is the H-2A website? Okay, we've got some facts. Tara's point, very good right here, of actual publications about what's happening. Spotify or Ag Alert. Okay, so you guys definitely have some places that you're looking at. So let's look at a few that we think are helpful. We believe that all MEP programs should be able to back up these kind of questions with data. Now, data could be that literally you're talking to your owners and your farm contractors who are saying, hey, look, it's not working, we're mechanized, in this area. And so you're, that's coming directly from them. But statewide data, to make sure you're not missing, should always come from additional sources to kind of back up what you have. So here is the challenge. Before we kind of get into something, I need to know, what are the top crops? Somebody put, let's see who puts the first state in the box here. Give me a state. One state. Okay, Arkansas is on there first. All right, we have a challenge. I need to know what are the top crops and agriculture products that Arkansas has. But I want to know where I can get that information. Now, Arkansas, you're a little bit at an advantage, but I want a website. I want a source of data that would help me know which counties might be. So first of all, what's your top crop? And then give me a source that shows me what's the top county for that crop. So give me a source. So you guys right now should be Googling. Find some sort of way that you can give me some information on the top crop in Arkansas and the top county for that production in Arkansas. So somebody put detasseling corn in Indiana. Now we need specifically Arkansas. So let's see what we have right here. Let me click on this. So we've got ag right now. We have, Lorenda shared some information here about specifically about the ag facts. Arkansas ranks 3rd in cotton production. So that would be definitely something that we would be interested in. So how could we find which county is top, which county in the state? Give me another link that shows who is the top one. Let's see. Connie just sent us something. Let's see where she got it. Most important crops in the state. She's going directly to the Department of Ag. Great place to go. Rice is big, wheat is big, corn is big, soybeans, and then there's cotton. So let's see what else we've got. Just going to click on here. You guys are going to the same. Very good. I like that you are finding automatically going to number 1 in rice. Number 1, so we can see Arkansas right here. It's actually given us some acres of different things, peanuts. So we've got, it says here, let's look what they've got with cotton. 4th in the nation for cotton and cottonseed. Let's see if anybody else has anything else. According to crops and commercial horticulture, Arkansas is number 1 in rice. Okay, so you have passed this first part very much with flying colors. Let's try something else. So our next question is, I need to know, let's take a look at cotton. Nationally, what challenges are facing the cotton sector in this country? See what you can find out. What is happening with cotton right now? And put those in the chat box if you find a direct link to something. What is going on? Okay, what do we got? So I want to know nationally how cotton is faring. Okay, so very good report right here. We have, let me see if you guys can see. I'll just do my desktop. Right now we have quick facts about Arkansas cotton, but I want to know what is happening nationally. So this is kind of some information as far as when it's planted, the outlook, or things are going. But give me something Jonathan put in here. Let's see what he's got. Cotton guide. Here's some cotton up challenges for cotton. Cotton farming systems vary hugely between geographic areas. In countries such as the US, Australia, and Brazil, cotton is grown in larger modernized farms. So then it says down here, what are the greatest challenges that we're facing? Water quality and quantity, inappropriate and excessive use of pesticides, low incomes for smaller. So this has given us across kind of what's happening across the, across the world here. Let's see what anybody else gives me some. Okay, we've got a good USDA report. Let's see if it talks about the cotton outlook. Very good, Aaron, where it's mentioning specifically what's happening. And so you can actually go through the USDA and follow where we are with, world production of cotton. And you say, well, what does the world have to do with US cotton? Well, because most of our agriculture products are sent all over the world. So this is another very good example of kind of going through USDA. Let's look at a couple more and see what else we're finding. This says US textiles and industry in crisis. Now this one would be a little bit old, so it's published in 2001, but it would be interesting to take a look at what it is was in 2001 all the way to now. Let's see, let's look at a couple more. Cotton industry, US cotton industry. Here's a whole bunch of reports. So tons of reports on here. Sometimes these are bad of like not letting you see it unless you can actually get in. Okay, so you're getting the point on some of this. You could take a look at this one as the back of what's happening, and then you could take a look and do some searches of what, the comparisons of what's actually happening. So let me see if we got anything else. Okay, this is a really good one here. Economist says cotton prices could face pressure. And so if I am a cotton state, I'm going to do some of this research that you guys very quickly did very fast to give you some ideas of what exactly is happening in my particular area of what I'm looking at. So very good. Let's go back to the presentation and we'll look at some other resources we have and see if we have any more questions. So the idea of doing your own ag research is taking a look at what are your numbers? What are your things showing you? Like it says, Oregon produces, so many $1 billion of crops. And then you can go deeper and say, okay, what industries? Wheat's not really going to help us. Soybeans are not really going to help us. Cotton, you look at which ones then can need the labor. So, I shouldn't have done it. If you had to find out, put the link in the box of where you might go to find your temporary work jobs. So yesterday we did a session and someone said, well, I thought all ag work was seasonal. Well, let's say you're one of the states like Nebraska or Kansas that is kind of the opposite of very much temporary type jobs, meat processing. Is there anywhere that you could find listings of meat processors in the country? Put that in the box if you know where one is. Where can I find information about temporary work jobs that are usually meat processing or something of that nature? What do you think? Let's see what we can come up with. But I want listings. I want to know, like, where are these places? Where are they at? Anybody have ideas of where I could go? Google. Very good. So there is the USDA. Okay, Jonathan has a good point that you can actually go to Indeed and look for the places that are looking. Alejandro has this, so you can click on Alejandro right now on his link that he just put up. And there's a really interesting site that is from the USDA. So these are the meat, poultry, and egg production inspection sites. USDA updates this every quarter. And there's something else here I need to see. Let me check this next one out I have. So Industry Select is kind of giving some information about it, but let me go up. Indeed's kind of giving you jobs, but I'm saying I really want like the plant locations and the things. So it's definitely not a bad place to start, but I would go here. So this is, if you'll check out what Alejandro put in on his post right there, and I'll just go ahead and put that down in the bottom. If you will put right here, if you'll click on this. No, I think I sent you the Zoom link or something ridiculous. Hold on. Let me get back to Alejandro. We'll let me make sure I'm sending you the wrong things. All right, go to this one. So this one specifically is the USDA meat and egg production inspection sites. So this basically, they have a map you can actually take a look at and say, I want to take a look at, maybe I don't want to see all, somebody give me a state. What state do we want? Let's do Kentucky. So we'll take a look at this, we apply, and we can actually see on their little map here, it should update it so that we can just see Kentucky. I can see these locations all over. Now, these are all of the USDA meat, poultry, and egg inspection directories. Now, some of these may be past initial commercial sale. Some of them are directly slaughterhouses. And so you can actually click on it and you can kind of see, you can kind of see, go over to the edge here, see more of the actual places, and it'll say, okay, this is poultry slaughter. I can click on another one. It'll say this is meat processing. Barbecue and sausage is probably past where I need to be. But then there may be some other ones that are specifically poultry slaughter. There is an easier way to do it too. If you click on where it says downloadable files and references, they have a directory specifically alphabetically by the name. You can click it. If you click on the XLS, it'll give you the Excel sheet of all of those in the country. You can filter out yours, maybe put it on a map and be able to kind of create your own data with that. They update this probably every 4 months, and you can go in here and kind of find information. So this will be, if there is meat, poultry, and egg companies in your state, they will be on this because it's pretty much required that they're all inspected by USDA. I think there was a couple comments. Jonathan mentioned that OSHA lists all farms with migrant farm workers in Oregon. So you can reach out and see if they have housing when they arrive, contact, etc. So that's a great source. Some places they don't readily give you as much information about that, and you might have to do a Freedom of Information Act request, and you can just kind of Google how to do that in your state. So some states are really good about giving that information, and some states are not. So you can see here, if you need additional, right here on this one, if you need additional information about establishments, you may file a request under the Freedom of Information Act right here, and you can actually ask them for more information for some of those particular places in your state. Okay, so let me go back to the slides here. Okay, so that is that one. So what happens if you want to find out, some things don't have lists as well. Like you can go to Manta, you can go to places, but let's say you want to know what's happening in dairy. A lot of states have temporary work in dairy. So USDA usually does these these economic reports. And so several of you kind of clicked on some of their reports and shared those. This is something that you definitely want to be able to see. And let me see if I can share. I'm just going to share this information. So over here, you can kind of see, this is USDA. They will give you over here on the side, and let me share this link. So if anybody wants to check it out, have it in your box. Okay, so there's a link for that. So they do these different reports that'll give you the outlook. It'll give you very recent outlooks on what's happening. It'll give you what they're expecting, whether they think production will be up or down. And so you can kind of look on your reports. It'll give you like feed outlook. It'll give you like if feed prices are skyrocketing, you know that this is going to be a challenge for the dairies. It'll give you the poultry, dairy, and livestock right there. It's an outlook report that they'll have that you can download and kind of see that information. And they have the same thing for dairy and poultry and sheep and hogs and livestock. So they have a lot of reports that are kind of just general good information reports. And if you go over here to publications, there's a lot of different things that you can see by crops. Sometimes there's places that you can actually sign up to get, like under the newsroom, you can get specific topics or specific information that they'll send out. But I really like to take a look at some of the background information, some of the market outlook of what they're expecting. So it just kind of gives you an understanding of those, those crops and things that you have. And so if you click under topics, they've got farm economy. I know they have some reports also on like farm labor of what's happening. And so the USDA is a great source to be able to kind of learn what's particularly happening with some of these crops. So then there is your regular, let's say in dairies, like, sorry, can't press, I'm pressing too much. Let me open this one up and see if I can share it. So this is a company that has pretty much, let's see, this is called Hordes Dairymen. So this is a really good report that they send out all sorts of, things that are happening in dairy. And they have this pretty good map that shows right now where cows are concentrated in. So if I was trying to figure out what was happening in dairy, I'm going to do some searches with that USDA. I'm going to read that, and then I'm going to start looking at some of the natural sources that I can sign up for and get information on. So this particular one, this article just mentions the top 25 cow areas by cow numbers. So Tulare, California is number 1. And then you may look down and say, okay, well, Gooding, Idaho is number 5. And so here is the link to, yes, if I forget to give links, please let me know. So here's a link for that. Olivia Gonzalez says, I received a monthly basis a USDA crop weather report, and it helps me see what is happening with the crops. Perfect example of just signing up for those kind of things that will help you see. So Hordes does a really good job of just keeping up with the news, and then it will link things that'll mention so you can kind of see how your state, like Idaho has several that are on the top. Roosevelt, New Mexico is number 23 out of all the country for the amount of dairy in one county. Weld, Colorado, Kern, Maricopa. So you can kind of just see sometimes how your other, if one of your particular areas would be helpful. And then they've got all these things like just dairy news. I can go in and just follow their dairy grams and see what's happening. So this is just one little website that you can find that will give you really an insight into dairy in a particular area. So we're going to talk about several different ones like this, but this is an example of just Googling, saying, hey, I want to know what's happening with dairy. Porridge Dairyman comes up and you can find all sorts of news articles about dairy. And then you can see these kind of things where it's saying dairy cows per square mile. You can see these red spots. And if that's your county, you know that, hey, we're pretty high, on how this is all working out. So, and then Arkansas is very dairy poor. So Sarah Seamount said, didn't realize Idaho was this big compared to other states. So that's kind of what's interesting about looking at ag trends on your local level and then comparing them to other places. And so sometimes I feel like we just get a handle on, for example, I had done some work in New Mexico in one of those counties that is the top, like the 4th or 5th, like Curry, New Mexico, number 13 on this list. And there were dairies all over the place. And you think, I wonder, how this compares. And then when we look, you say, man, they're that close to some of these other ones that are. So it's really important to kind of look at local and then extend it out to regional and then extend it out to statewide and then extend it out to national. So you can kind of see dairymen in the Northeast are still facing some of the same challenges that they are out West, because just the way the market is, but they may face very different challenges based on labor and things like that locally of what's going on. So these different sources can be real helpful. There are some good crop maps. So the NAS, which is the National Agriculture Statistics Service, does a lot of things that show specifically, and I'll go ahead and open this up just so that you can have that link, kind of play with it if you want. So here is a little bit of the NAS. I don't know if it's sharing my screen or not. Let me go to desktop so you can see it. The NAS will do a ton of these on just general information of like your county maps. If you want to see cotton, for example, we were looking at cotton for Arkansas, but you can actually go on here and say, okay, there's a lot of different kinds of cotton. I want to see where Pima cotton is. And then you can click on it and see that there's only one area that's kind of, and I think it's like the place is called Pima, where that's grown. And so it's kind of so you can kind of just see what it looks like. Alfalfa for some places, peanuts is something that a lot of sometimes we'll have workers that are working at a processing facility for that. And you can see where peanuts are. So there's some way out in Texas, and then the peanut belt is very much in the South. And so you can kind of take a look at where those kind of things are. In addition, they have other resources, like some of you have used Cropscape before, I'm sure. Cropscape, people have like a love-hate relationship with this thing. I'll put it in the box if anyone wants to play around with it. It has to have its very specific purpose. I would suggest if you're interested in Cropscape, if you go over to this corner, I don't know if you can see where my hand is, my little thing is over here, there's a demo video that will walk you through basically what Cropscape is and what you can do with it. My favorite thing with Cropscape is to go in and take a look at some of the comparison data. So you can actually kind of take a look at specific, and it takes a lot of it will slow things down. So it's not probably good for me to use it right now because my internet will not probably support it and everything else I'm doing right now. But if you go to this Cropscape, you can compare layers of how crops were in the past. Let me see if it lets me go back at all. I don't think so. So this is not very helpful for you, but if you play around with this, there's some different bars right here at the top that lets you do a query. So this will actually let you identify a specific thing. You can do area of interest statistics. Mine's not gonna let me do it while you guys are watching. Probably because I have 1,000 things open too. So let me just close some of those and that might help. Let's see. Okay. Well, and then I lost that too. So let's open that up again. So this one is one that I think is helpful, but again, you have to kind of, it will to let you kind of see what you want to do with it, and you can explore the data with the different data sets. And so looks like they're doing maintenance. Oh, so then that would be explained why we got some maintenance going on right now. But if you go into here and you can kind of play with that, it's a really helpful site. Okay, so let's go back to show you more slides of what we had. So here's examples of some of the things that were I thought were interesting, like sugar beets. This would maybe something you're saying, hey, how do we compare? And you can take a look at it and see, like, Sarah's comment as far as Idaho, how do you compare to other states as far as, whether this one's cotton alfalfa, here's some sugar beet production over here, 19%. Jonathan mentions looking at big places on your border help as well. That's a very good point. Like, for example, this up here, this, we've got something over here for Texas. I'm trying to think of what that is behind my little thing that you could see. Okay, if you're in New Mexico on the other side, they may have a big crop right across your border and you're not aware of it unless you're looking at your border states. So very good point. So any idea of where you could go to get exact numbers of farm workers by county in your state? Now, if you were with the session that I did yesterday, you know the answer to this, but put in the box where you could go to get the numbers of farm workers by county in your state. And if you get bonus points, if you can actually send me the link on where you could possibly find this. So we know it's in the Ag Census, but they have a tool that is really helpful. So can anyone put it in the box if you know what we're talking about? Yes, there is Google. I think Google, you're going to get stuck trying to, now you could Google it, but I think this one's one that you'll go on a wild goose chase to get the exact numbers. Spotlight will just tell you about H2A. It will not tell you the number of full farm workers. USDA. All right, so I don't want to waste your time, but let's check this one out. This one is absolutely cool. If you do not know it, you definitely want to get to play around with this one. So let me open it up so you can see it. This is new as of the last, so seasonal jobs. Yes, thank you. I'll do the link so you can do this with me. So give me a county and somewhere in the state. Give me a state first, whoever does it first. One state. Okay, Oregon's first. All right, now I need a county in Oregon. Okay, I don't even know how to say that. So we're going to take a look at county level data. We're going to take a look at, we want to specifically look at hired farm labor. And then we're going to say that we want to look at it specifically in Oregon. And then we are going to see if I won't even say Klamath and then I can update it. So what this is, the Ag Census, if you're not familiar with the Ag Census comes out every 5 years. And in the last round of Ag Census, they came up with this query tool of some specific things that you could go ahead and look at. So several of you guys are showing us Spotlight. Spotlight's helpful, but Spotlight is only H2A. So that is, since we're trying to look for all farm worker numbers, now this is going to give me numbers. It's not going to give me locations. It's not going to give me work sites. It's going to give me estimations of numbers according to what farmers filled out when they filled out the Ag Census. So my husband and I have a small farm. Every time the Ag Census comes out, I get a letter that says, hey, fill out this survey, make sure you fill it out. We get some, like tax discounts if we say we're, an agriculture thing. And so they say, hey, look, we know that you need to fill this out. And if you don't fill it out, then they'll reach out to you. And I think I put the link in the box. Let me see. Let me see if I can do that again. So here is a link. Okay, so this is the quick stats tool that they have. So on this, if I press update grid, it's going to just tell me the information about farm workers for this particular county of what's happening. So it'll say, these are labor hired operations with workers. They say there are at least 108 operations in the state of Oregon that have one worker. There are 57 that have two. There are 42 that have 3 to 4. There are 31 that have 5 to 9. And there are at least 22 that are stating that they have 10 or more. And then they'll say in 71 that's saying that they have even more. So then it'll give you numbers and it'll say, so this is only for this particular county. So, in this particular county, they're saying there are at least 22 farms that are saying they hire 10 or more hired workers. So if I am the recruiter in that area, in my mind, I want to be able to say, yeah, I pretty much know where they're talking about. Of course, these numbers not going to have absolutely everything. It's not the end all, but it gives me an idea. Now, if I'm a state higher up in the state and I'm seeing that this particular county has a really robust migrant program, but next door, there's not anything going on, and I'm wondering if anything will show me whether we should have similar numbers or not, I'm going to start right here. I'm going to take a look at it. I'm going to look at the next county over. I'm going to do a query and say, okay, how many of these 10 or more hired labor locations do they have? And then they're saying that there's at least 1,342 workers. And then it'll go down below and it'll say like how many days, like those that worked at least 150 or those that worked less. And so it gives you a little bit more information. And then they have this little section below that's called migrant labor. Now, this one's a little bit problematic because this is based on what farmers consider to be migrant labor. And it may not be the exact same thing that you and I are thinking of, but they'll have numbers. So if they say that there are at least 194 migrant workers, there's probably at least 194. Those, the farmer themselves are saying, hey, these are really migrant, they're moving back and forth. So you can also use this query tool to look at any of the other census tables. You can look at county summaries, you can look at farm production expenses, land and farms, land and use, cropland, and irrigation kind of things. And then there's a whole bunch of other things. Like if I want to look in this particular area and say, okay, let's look at how much they have of berries. I can click on it and it'll say there's 5 operations that say they have berries. The area is grown. It'll give you, it's not enough that they're giving me the acres, but I can say, well, what about Christmas trees? And I can do the same thing and check out what that particular place has. 2 Christmas tree areas. So again, this is tons and tons of information that I could look at. Land used for vegetables and harvesting. I can go in and check that out and it's going to give me this. So vegetable totals, it says there are 45, there are 8,243 acres in production related to vegetables. That's a good amount. So I should be able to see. They also have at least 8,272, which is interesting that there's acres harvested is a little bit more. So again, use this tool to kind of make sense of the ag census and those numbers. So Spotlight, all of that is a separate thing. This is just giving you an estimate of what you should expect. So if I'm a regional recruiter and I cover multiple areas, I'm going to take a look at how those counties rank against each other and prioritize which one may be worth more my time or which one, when I go in, I know that it's going to be a little bit harder because my numbers are a lot less. So really, really like this tool. We used to, I mean, it's the query tool is brand new as of this last round, I think since 2020. Really a neat tool. And then you can export it. Like if you want to make reports or you want to view it in PDF and share it with somebody, you can do both of those things from right there. So it's kind of a cool, I really like it. It's a good tool. And we spent a lot of time trying to put this into spreadsheets and stuff, but this one really, really helps. Okay, so let me go back to where I was. So then there's this thing called the National Agriculture Statistics Service Quick Stats. Now, this is another one that's kind of, in my opinion, is kind of a love-hate kind of thing. It says, can you send us an email with all those links that you're using? No, I cannot, but it's all completely in the presentation. It is, if you go to under Whova, under the documents, everything if you download the PDF right there, everything that we're clicking on is in the documents section of Whova, and you can access all the presentation. And if you do email me and say, hey, can I have that? I definitely will. But just because we have so many people, I might miss that. The best thing would be for you to go ahead and go check it out under the documents section. Okay, so this is the quick stats section. And so I will we'll open this up and I'll see if I can share my screen. And then you can play around this, and it can be frustrating and it can be very enlightening. So just warning you that if you get frustrated, that's okay. I have many times. So this is, some people say, well, the ag census is good, but it's so old. It's from, I'm still a believer that trends usually happen in multiple years. And so something that happened 2 or 3 years ago is still relevant. But there also is something called the farm survey. So these are gone out every year. So if I click on this first box, my second and third boxes are going to populate depending on what it is that I click. Same thing for the survey. I'm going to click on the survey, and then it's going to change. And so if I would say, oh, I want to take a look at some survey data, I want to look at crops, and then the next box is going to change and say, oh, do you want to look at fruit and tree nuts? Okay, yeah. And then it's going to change the next box and say, well, what do you want to look at? Let's say we wanted to look at cherries. And then it's going to change the next box. So it'll say, do you want to look at cherries, the area bearing? Do you want to look at the condition? Do you want to look at how it was compared to last year? Do you want to look at the production? Do you want to look at the progress? What is it that you want to look at? Let's just look at the area that's bearing. And then again, it will change this next box. Say, do you want the sweet or do you want the tart? Let's try the sweet. So hopefully you kind of, know exactly what you're looking for. And then I can say, okay, now I know that it's available on the national or state level. I want to take a look at the state, and it should populate which state it is. So let's say I want to look at Washington, and then it's going to kind of say, well, what year do you want? And then you press this. So, and then at the very bottom, there'll be a get data. And sometimes you go all the way through that and think, well, that was not helpful. And sometimes it'll tell you, okay, there is at least 40,000 acres in this particular state about sweet cherries. So it gives me an idea, but some of this, you have to have a little bit of patience to kind of go in and look at this and go through and learn how to use it for your state and learn what's available. But you can actually go by county and look at the current condition, what's happening, how much acreage is planted, things like that is all available in this. I find this one a little bit tedious, and I spend a lot of time clicking on things. And then sometimes I'm like, how did I do that? So I want to make sure I take a screenshot and I can remember, oh, well, I took it. What I did was the census, and then I looked at fruit and tree nuts, and then I looked at cherries, and I looked at the area bearing, acres bearing, the county, and then I was able to find all of these things and find out that there were 4,885 acres in this particular area. So you may look at it and say, this is not my tool. I don't want to do this. This is not helpful, but it may have some information that's helpful if you're willing to kind of go through it. So I also very much believe in the power of Google. Several of you, as your comments, when we're saying, where do you get it? You say, Google, Google, Google. So let's say that we had the challenge of, okay, I'm from Washington and I know that I have cherries in the area and I'm not sure kind of what the situation is or where I can find them. And one of my favorite things that I just, we looked up in this last thing, I looked up, particular area, noticing by county that Benton County was mentioned. I don't know if you can even see down at the bottom of the quick stats, it was mentioned Benton County for the, for the cherries. So if I'm from this area and I'm thinking, hey, I want to figure out what's going on with this. I'm the recruiter, I'm brand new, or maybe I've been there for a while and I'm just really wanting to know what's happening with these trends. I'm going to start Googling Benton cherries. And when I do that, I'll start coming across some of these things, and it'll say early good, early spring for Washington cherries. And then I'll see, oh, wow, ag weather nets. I'm just literally clicking on this. It's kind of showing me what's happening. It's saying, that, hey, the dormancy break's going to be earlier or not. And then over here, one of my favorite things to do when I'm looking for ag trends is just put challenges facing this industry, challenges facing that, because right now in this country, agriculture is really struggling. And you can pretty much find out the challenges by just saying, hey, like Sarah Seamount just put 60,000 acres of chickpeas. I wonder how much labor that takes. I'm going to Google that. 60,000 acres of chickpeas in whatever place it is. How much labor comes? And a lot of times you'll see that these things coming. So you can see right now, just a very quick, Google search. If I'm from Washington, I can take a look. This is what's hedging on the industry, but the industry could resume for mechanical harvesting. I'm already seeing some information as far as harvesting. Now, I did not do a column. I'm cheating. Darren, this is 3 different slides put together just so you could see the impact. So this was 1, this was 2, and this was 3. Sorry about that. So I just wanted you to see all the things that you very quickly, by searching Benton, yeah, it would be cool if you could have multiple. Benton, the cherries. Then I found an interesting article that I liked. And then look at this, just a very quick, like we'll do these ag census things and people say, wow, you came up with such great information. One of my skills is I'm a good Googler. So that is not that great of a skill. Anyone else can get good at that. But look at what you find right away. Challenges facing Washington's cherry industry, taking on the challenge of cherries. They're talking about mechanical harvesting. You're talking about how long it takes, diseases that come, how COVID has impacted, what's particularly happening with trade, growers worrying to find enough workers. I can get just lots of information just super fast about what's happening in my current industries if I just think, all right, what are some numbers? What are some things, some trends? So Sarah's comment about the chickpeas, what is that? Where, what are they doing? How do they harvest it? You can get that information pretty fast. So when you're doing these ag trends for your state, it's what are your crops? What, how do they rank against other people? What are their major issues that they're facing? And is there any national trends that are going to impact? Like one of you said, hey, things that are happening, the workers came late to our state because another state, Florida had these blueberries, that this new crop that they had. And so it's messing up the seasons of when they come to us. So you start to see how interconnected we are. If COVID taught us anything, it's how absolutely interconnected we are. Same thing with agriculture, how things kind of build around each other. So another thing that's kind of so it's just cherry workers lots of workers have moved. Here it mentions the ag atlas maps, and I think I already mentioned those as we kind of went through, but I do have in the presentation, we've already kind of sent that one out. I jumped ahead on this one. This is another one that I think is really cool. If you were with us yesterday, you've probably seen this, but I think it's definitely worth your time. So it says there a way to categorize search results by the latest dates. Put the date in, challenges, cherry workers, 2021, February. And then it will give you the most recent things. So make sure that those kind of things are what you're looking for. All right, so let me show you this one. And this is just being able to, I know I need to, let me share my screen. Let me see here. Okay, somebody raise their hand if you want to just go ahead and just let us know what your question is. I said, let me know what your question is. Just go ahead and put that on or let everybody know. I'm just going to look up ag census just so you can see how to find it if later on you're thinking, okay, what are we? So what is NAS? This is the National Agriculture Statistics Service. So that's what the NAS is. So when you go here, and somebody's going to say, put the link in. Here's the link. If I can get it in my box here. Okay, here is the link. This is for the ag census. This is all the ag census stuff that you have. The query tool that we just looked at is found on this. But there also is the actual ag census itself. Over here on the side, there is the Census of Aquaculture. So if you're a fishing state, this is super helpful for you. The Census of Horticulture. So these are like nurseries and specifically flowers and planting, things like that. You can find this, both of those are right there, very helpful. They don't come out exactly at the same time as the ag census. They're on alternate years. Really good information if that's particularly what you're doing. The Department of Agriculture did a really good highlight series on what was happening. They came out with 2020 of how to use the ag census. So if this is new to you, check that out. But then I like to go over here where it says find current data by state and county. So then this nice map that comes up. Somebody give me a state. Louisiana, too speedy. Okay, so Louisiana, we can click on Louisiana, give me a county. So if I click on here, I can see state and county profiles. So those of you that want to do this, just check it out. You can go along with us. Okay, so we've got Acadia. So if I click on Acadia, so what this is specifically is a summary of that particular county. I love these things. If I have a state that says, hey, could you help us with our ag data and figure out, this is the absolute first place that I go to figure out what's going on in their state. And so that gives you a 2-page summary of some things that are highlights of the ag census. Some of it is not helpful to us, some of it is. I'm just going to give you a quick way to walk you through this. So this is Acadia Parish in Louisiana. It's going to tell us that there are 964 farms. It's up 15% than what it was in 2012. So it gives you a little bit, but it also says you may have more farms, but they're a little bit smaller in size. Then it'll give me over here a breakdown that says crops are 85% of the sales in agriculture, and livestock and poultry and products is the other. Some of you will flip-flop and be 90% livestock, poultry, and products, but it gives you a very good breakdown right away of what are people selling, what are your farmers selling. Then it gives you by your land in use. So 78% of the land that's related to agriculture in this particular county is related to cropland. Then it has pasture land, woodland, and other. Also lets you know how much of your land is irrigated. This is one of those things that's always in the back of my mind of agriculture moves when there's not enough water available. And so if most of your land is irrigated, sometimes you'll see movement out of a place to another place where water is readily available. So this is kind of a backdrop. East Coast, we don't think about it a lot. West Coast, you think about it a whole bunch. So then you take a look over here. There's some totals, products, those kind of things. I don't pay as much attention to that. Land use, sometimes no till, reduced till. When there's more tilling, there's a lot of times there's more use for people to be out in the field doing that. And then it gives me my numbers of farms. Those, you have 85 farms that are over 1,000 acres. So this is kind of an indicator that I would think, okay, what is that? Is that very large vegetable farms? Are these somehow cattle farms? Like, what is that? Is it wheat? Is it soybeans? Is it something else? You want to have that in your mind. Second page, it says, where is the summary in the site? Let's see. I'll put that. So go look on your, I'll send a direct link here in just a second. So now here's the second page that looks at specifically the, let me go back just in case anybody's stuck, and then we'll go right back to this. You're going to go to the page, the link. Let me just put this. I don't want to lose anybody on what we're doing because you can follow. So this is, so we were in Louisiana, and then we clicked on, we want to look at the state and county. It's the same for everyone, and we're back in Acadia. So if you go to page number 2, this is going to tell you what your crops are. And it's also going to tell you how you rank total. So it says this county is 11th in the state. They're not super high in anything related, nationally. Crops, they're number 9 in the state, so a little bit higher up for that. And then it's going to give me some ideas. Grains, oil seeds, dry beans usually don't have any ag that, migrant families that come for it. So it's one that I don't pay that much attention to. It's going to start giving information. It says it does have some nursery and greenhouse, but whenever there's a D, it's a smaller amount. A lot of hay, so that probably gives us the answer on why they have 1,000 acres, some of these 1,000-acre farms. A lot of hay over here, a lot of livestock, poultry products, and then a lot of cattle and calves, lots of aquaculture. So I can kind of look, it's number 2 in the state for aquaculture, also number 2 for sheep, goats, wool, mohair, and milk. So you can kind of see, and then going down below, you can kind of read how this is. It's going to give you your top crops. It's saying rice is our top, then soybeans, then forage, then sugarcane, and then vegetables. So you can kind of see, if I am the recruiter in this area, I'm kind of thinking how this works. At least 25% of the farms hire farm labor. 91% are family farms, which just means it's a family that owns it. And then over here, it'll give me a breakdown of my livestock. So I can look and say cattle and calves is definitely the biggest. I've got some sheep and lambs, things like that, but it gives you, you've got crawfish. So your crawfish are up here in your aquaculture. So that's your huge section right there. So just to give you kind of what it is, I think this gives a real good breakdown of some of the things that you can just playing around. There's no reason that any one of us can't know the number of farm workers expected in the county and exactly what kind of crops and work is going to be in the county if we use these 2 tools. So very easy to use. I think they're way underused in the migrant program because a lot of people are just not even aware of them. And, so people say, hey, I want you to help us with our data. Maybe it's bad, to share all the, I really believe that if we all know the things, we can do our jobs better. And, these are tools that are extremely helpful and completely free and available to all of us. So if I was to do this breakdown that I have right here is for the county that I live in. I live in Warren County, Tennessee. We're supposedly the nursery capital of the world. And you can take a look when you look at nursery. Here it says we're number 1 in the state for nursery. But we think we're the nursery capital, but we're actually 37th in the country. So we have these signs all over saying that we're the best one in the country, but we're not. But we, for some reason, put that up. But if I was new to this and thinking, hey, I really need to figure out what is it about McMinnville? Here's 2 searches really quick about, nationally, McMinnville, capital of the world, according to us. The next slide, the side one, this is a split one where I did 2 different things. Here's just some good examples of trying to figure out more about greenhouses and more about, this agriculture censuses and horticultural census and floriculture maps. And so there's some this particular one here from Cornell, and I don't I don't think I have that one like linked, has a whole bunch of stuff about producers and sales. And so it's coming from the ag census. So you can just see, Googling, I can find out a lot of information. And so here is an example of the horticultural. If I was, looking at nursery, here's all the different things that this particular, this ag census, that's horticulture, will tell me, how many potting plants, how many Christmas trees, how many evergreens, how many shade trees. So this is different. It's not just telling us vegetables or fruit. It's very specific on the kinds of things that are available related to nursery. And so you can check out and then see again on this, you can kind of see it has highlights and it lets you kind of see. I also have on here how you can subscribe. Let me see if I can just open this up because this might be interesting to people. Let me put this in here. And then let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, so this particular one, you can kind of see here. And then down here below, make sure you can see what I'm showing. They have what they call do you want to receive reports automatically? So this is the place that you can go in there and say, hey, I want to get national reports, or I want to get state reports. And then it will send you these reports by email whenever they come out. So up here, you can put your state. You want to get statistics for a certain state. You click on there, and then it'll let you know what's available. And then you subscribe. Up here, it says, do you want national subscriptions? Do you want state subscriptions? What do you want? And so you can find that extra information based on that. So it'll just come to your box, your email box, which is way easy, and you can kind of see what's going on. So if, again, using this idea of what we've been talking about of using Google, looking around, I can just do a search and find, the first thing, listing of nurseries in Middle Tennessee. The very first thing that comes up is a list of nurseries and garden centers. And then over here on the side, you can see some of the results. So if you don't have the farm data that you need, it's available in a lot of different places. And again, the same idea, what's happening with the nurseries, I can do my favorite keyword, challenges facing the nursery. And then all of a sudden it will give me really important information about things that are happening. And then right here on the side, it'll give me up to date an article that was included in there of what's exactly happening and going on with this particular nursery industry. There's another tool that you can take a look at, farm subsidies. Pay attention to my time. Okay, this is the farm subsidy database. Farm subsidies are given for different things. It could be because of disaster relief, but a lot of your larger farms will qualify for some of the subsidies. I was actually working in a state that they told me that I couldn't come in with any data. They wanted to see if we could actually just teach them how to do it without, I love to get the data ready and know where I'm going to go and what we're going to do. But the challenge in this particular one was to take a county that we knew nothing about and just go ahead and get started. And so I wound up going to a farm insurance kind of building and saying, hey, I'm just trying to figure out where's the biggest farms in the county? Where would you suggest we go? And he said, why don't you use the farm subsidy database? I know about the farm subsidy database. I'd forgotten. And I didn't even think to cheat and use my, Google and say, hey, let's just get on and find the farm subsidy database. So let me share with you what that looks like. You can just literally just Google farm subsidy database. Subsidy database, if I can type. And then it will come up as one of the first things. And it's kind of a cool tool that you can use. So basically these guys are kind of, they may or may not agree with whether people should get farm subsidies, but you can click on here and you can see your top recipients this year, and it'll actually give you lists of places and where they came from and where they got it. And then you can click on it and see that, wow, Kelly Enterprises has gotten these subsidies every single year. What have they gotten it for? Cotton, corn. And I think I just put the link. The link is right there. It's below. It says here, I'll put it again, but it's there. That is the link. So you want to look up your state, and you can actually look up by farm locations. You can kind of see specifically, it'll tell you which places got the larger, this Kelly locate, it'll say, hey, here's all the places they got it. And it'll give those, it doesn't give me a phone number, it doesn't give me an address, but it gives me a name and a town that I can look for. And so you can take a look per company, per state, You can kind of see Tennessee, for example, has a lot of field crops and stuff out towards a certain section, a lot of corn, a lot of soy that doesn't qualify for us, but you can take a look and see if there's any of them that have received any commodity payments or anything for a crop that might be helpful for us to look at. Okay, so let me go ahead and share the other one. Let me move on here. We're getting close to, okay. So there is another one that's called the local food directories. This one is kind of smaller where they sell directly to the direct population. So sometimes there's not as many workers, but sometimes there are. And so this is one that is through the USDA. And I believe I have it linked in the presentation. And here you can do a search. You can search near a specific zip code and see exactly what is, I probably would be helpful to type a real zip code in. And you can kind of take a look at the distance, how far you want to look. Let's look at 100 miles around, and then it'll search, and then it'll give me this little map that I can kind of check out where all these locations are. And I can see if any of these places are somewhere that I think might possibly have somebody that's eligible. So these are on-farm markets, places that you can go. There's also food directories that you can take a look at. And this is all through the US. I don't think I gave you guys this one. Let me put this on here. So here is this particular one. So it's pretty helpful tool. Again, kind of smaller local things, and you can just check. Some of these are just mom and pop and there's no workers, but there are some that are. So it's a good place to check out. Then there's Manta, which a lot of you are probably very familiar with. I absolutely adore Manta. Manta will give, my favorite way to use Manta is to search in Google of Manta. Let me see. Sorry, my thing has changed. So let me see. Sorry. Go up. So Manta, you can go in on their website. It's just manta.com. And look for a specific thing in your location. That is not my favorite way to do it. I like to just put Manta, Tennessee agriculture, and then it'll come up like this very top thing that says Agriculture Tennessee. And then at the bottom of the page will be this thing. So let me show you real quick what that looks like. Let me get out of this and share Manta. Let's see, doing a bunch of switching back and forth. Here we go. This is back to, here we go. So here's what it looks like. You can kind of, if you have an account, you can, we haven't paid for an account, so I'm not sure exactly the benefits of this, but I can just literally go Manta, Maine, agriculture. And when I do that, usually the first thing that will come up will be my search for this. And if I go to the very bottom of the page, there, way down here will be all of the different options that Manta has related to agriculture. So animal aquaculture, it can be chicken eggs, citrus fruits, cotton. So IDRC did lists for all of our states of all the farms we could possibly find. And we literally just got everything off all of the state, everything that we could, tobacco, turkey. We started with this, and Manta was the base of a lot of that information. So Manta, let's see, let's just take a look at the tree things. Let's get rid of this stupid ad. I can go in and check on Morrison Hill Orchard, and I can see that it says that it was started in 2010. They get some public record tax information here, and that the current estimates show this company has an annual revenue of 68,000 and employs a staff of approximately 2. So some of them will say employs a staff of 68 or employs a staff. So this is a great place to go. And so you're probably wondering the link. It's just literally, well, here, we'll just give you Maine's and you can kind of play around with it. So this is a really, really good place to start. One of my favorites, and it's just one of those things that you just have to kind of work through. So I feel like that it's almost like a corn maze. You go into a corn maze and you think you understand kind of what you're going in and what you think the information that you need. But if you do this ag research right, it will lead you all over the place. And in the end, you may have to go all over the whole maze to get all the information you need, but you become way more informed about what's happening. So in the projects, in the slides itself, we have some more of our favorite ones. And so like the vegetable growers news is a great one. You can just go in and see, just this really good information that's about, that shows you about farms and vegetables, and you can look by region. You can say, I want to look at news by the Midwest, by the Northeast, you can take a look at any of those. Super helpful. They also have, there is like a sister program that is the vegetable, fruit and growers news. And so same kind of thing. I can take a look by region. I can look at labor. They have this whole series on labor. You can kind of see what that looks like. Hemp Industry Daily. And I know I'm going really fast. I'm not sharing these direct links. Let me share this one. I'll go ahead and put this in there so you can play around and see it. Hemp Industry Daily has some really good stuff by region and then specifically by state. And it'll give you, they put new stuff pretty much daily on there, and it'll let you see what you can do, what's available and what's happening with that. Dairy Herd is a pretty good one too. Let's see if it'll open up, and I'm going to have that same problem with too many things open. So let's see if I can get to Dairy Herd. Okay, so Dairy Herd will just give you general information about, it's really geared towards dairymen themselves, and it'll also tell you about what programs they have and everything on how to control flies and everything else. But you can also really take a look at, what's happening specifically in dairy from that. Fishing news, U.S. Harbors has some real good information. You just kind of have to search around. It'll give you the reports of what's happening. So you can take a look and filter specifically by state and find the information that's available for that. There is meatandpoultry.com. Will keep you updated on a lot of the national things that are happening, and it'll give you specific agencies and associations and companies and just general information about what's happening, like transportation challenges or consumptions that are changing, automations, labor. You can see automatically there's some things that you can kind of, that you can take a look at. AP News, this is another thing. You can do Google's alerts, but AP News also has specific subjects. And so you can look at their topics over here and sign up for specific things. So one of their things is meat processing. And you can go ahead and get them to give you AP News related to meat processing, and that can come directly to you. Same thing, AP News related to agriculture. And so they've got, so you can kind of see where it says, like specifically epic drought means water crisis in California and Oregon. These are things that we may be oblivious to. And then you look, it's saying right now, this is today. Epic drought means crisis. The first things, hundreds of farmers who rely on massive irrigation project. You can take a look at it and see exactly where the challenge is for that. So you can kind of see. Let me go back. And then a few more meat institutes. This one, if you want to pay for the subscription, I actually pay for a subscription just to get their news. They give you a bunch of information, and I usually try to reach out to each state whenever I see anything that's helpful. But they do a bunch of free publications that you can kind of listen to. And then there is an Ag Daily. There's Farmers and Ranchers. So I just wanted to give you some ideas of how, when we do the ag trends, this is kind of how we do it. Pig royalty there. You can see all different kinds of things that you can see from these kind of, these different sites. So our goal is to help more states become more comfortable with ag data, not feel daunted by it, and literally see that you can just become a good Googler and know what you're looking for and follow it. You can really keep up with what's happening in your areas. And so if you are looking, it says, what is the best way to share this kind of information with state recruiters? If we do research, how do we disseminate it to the boots on the ground? I try to be real, specifically look at articles. Like if it's an article that clearly is obvious how it's related, like having worker shortage in this area, or I try to just I would always just send blasts, like, hey guys, check this out. And then when we did monthly meetings, we would do ag trends updates. Hey, we're seeing, this is what the data is showing. What are you guys seeing on the field? And then just kind of have that be something that recruiters would share and know that it's something we're tracking. And so I get a lot of, in our position with IDRC, we'll get a lot of states saying, hey, did you know about this? So we try to do that back. So I think you just develop a culture that recruiters know that this information is important. And the idea is we back up our assumptions with data. We try to be proactive on what is happening in our areas. by using resources that already exist. And then when they know that we're starting to really follow that, people have all different data sources, and so people are pretty good about sharing it. So you may have a site that you link, important ones, or you just provide an ag update in a newsletter or something. So I know for IDRC, for NASME, we're going to do a national ag trends of what's happening in all the different industries and kind of give on that. But you can do something very similar statewide of this is exactly what's happening. So the title of this presentation, I gotta remember what the heck it was. I think it's like using your ag data. Let me just get out of my slides here. So the title of the presentation is Understanding Your State's Ag Trends. If you go under your documents tool in Whova, you'll be able to see that there. So I hope that this information was helpful. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. Yes, I'll stop recording there.